guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I would do another Turner syndrome video. I want to talk about Turner syndrome and infertility and specifically how they're connected. I know I've talked about my own version of it and like what's causing mine. And if you haven't seen those videos, you can click in the corner and watch it, and I will put it in the description box below. Our journey with it, our story with it, and what specifically is mine. But I wanted to talk about how it causes it and kind of why it causes infertility. So we've talked about the HRT and how that really is necessary because we do not produce enough of those hormones ourselves to have a healthy level. Now, that is a direct symptom of what causes the infertility. During the conception process, when the kind of glitch or little like hiccup, as I like to call it, I can't think of a better word for it, to describe when the Turner syndrome damage begins. So everything after that point, every cell made after that point in conception is affected. It's affected in the one of two ways broadly, and then more specifically you can have a lot of different variations of it. But it is either a whole X missing or parts of an X missing, and all of those cells made after that point are affected in that way. That decides the hormone levels that you are able to produce, the development and the level of development you are able to accomplish within that time period, and how severe the variation is. Classic, which is a whole X missing, is going to be much more severe in most cases than mosaic, which is just bits and pieces missing. Somebody with mosaic Turners actually has a chance, more so at least, for a spontaneous pregnancy than somebody with classic, like me. So it's all about ovarian function, ovarian development, and egg reserve. If you have enough egg reserve and they're healthy, the hormone levels are high enough to sustain them, you have a possibility. If your egg reserve has completely depleted or is very, 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 very low, and your ovaries are not responding enough, that is the direct result. That is the infertility that Turner syndrome comes with or causes. So mine is basically titled as premature ovarian failure, I think. Very low egg reserve, and my ovaries do not respond when my brain sends a signal to ovulate. That being said, my fertility doctor did say that during the process before IVF, to prepare me, they would give me a shot to prevent spontaneous ovulation. So it's not even a clear, like, you will never ovulate. It's the probability. It's the likelihood of you being able to ovulate, or a doctor being able to get you to successfully ovulate in order to use your own eggs. There has even been debates about the health of those eggs if you are able to ovulate, and a debate as to if somebody with Turner syndrome would be able to pass on Turner syndrome to a daughter if they had a daughter with their own eggs. And that is something I have not figured out. So if anybody watching this has any information or any articles about it, I would love to read up on it and kind of figure that out, because I was told, and the way I understood it, is we couldn't pass it on. It's not genetic. Like, I didn't get it from my mom. That's not the way you have Turner syndrome. So I always thought that that wouldn't really be possible. And there are a lot of genetic conditions like that that don't get passed on, or kind of only spontaneously get passed on, just like you spontaneously get it. So I have not fully figured that part out. But there have been debates on it that are super interesting, super enlightening, and I would love to learn more about it because that could be a huge decision-making factor of if you spontaneously got pregnant or if you were to try to spontaneously get pregnant, even if doctors are telling you you can't, because let's be real, they can't predict everything. So that being said, the infertility with Turner syndrome, just like anything else, looks so different. Mosaic Turners can spontaneously get pregnant, and a doctor might try to do IVF treatments with them without egg donation and try to use their eggs. Somebody with classic, again, it's much less likely, but anything can happen. And you kind of just gotta figure out what your own situation is, which is why I, pretty quickly after we got married, started trying to get answers as to what my body was doing, because it went beyond, I want to have a baby right this second. Would I have been sad to? No, I'm very honest about that. I would have not been sad to. I also got a lot of comfort just from knowing what my body was doing. I didn't even know if I was ovulating or not. Even my fertility doctor said that there could be spontaneous ovulation. He just didn't feel like it was enough of a chance that he could use it to help us have a baby. So he didn't want to count on that, spend time, money, all of that on something he just didn't think he was going to be able to pull off. It was just really helpful to me to know how my body was working, to know what my ovaries looked like, what they were doing, if I had any eggs at all. That kind of got answered for me. That gave at least a part of it a little resolution, because I didn't have answers as to how we would build our family, but I knew how my body was working and what we would be facing. And seeing as it's so individual, it's important to figure out your certain case. That is, I think, the biggest thing as I've gotten older about Turners that I have learned is how different it really looks in every woman or girl with it. Can look so individual. Even under classic, that, you know, it's not just between mosaic and classic, it looks different. Between people that are mosaic, theirs are different. Classics are different. And that doesn't say anything about when in the conception process that started happening. That just says what kind of damage it did. So it's been something very comforting to me to know how my body is working and what specifically the infertility for me looks like. And it was honestly very encouraging to actually get to talk to a doctor about it. It was very encouraging having that opinion, having that voice, getting that information, and then getting to have their take on it, what they thought it would require, kind of explore what my body was doing and what our options were. Way ahead of when we would actually be putting anything into action to start our family. I mean, I started that journey 9 months ago, I want to say. 8-9 months ago. We're nowhere close to doing anything actively yet. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen soon, but we have no idea when we're going to be in that position or what even that will look like. So it was really more to be informed, to kind of have that resolved of what we would be facing, and that has helped. I think it's calmed that side of it for me. There's not a big question hanging over my head anymore. I know what's going on. I know what's happening. And it helped me understand how it can affect you. How Turner syndrome really does equate to infertility. Really what is required and what the circumstances can actually look like. There is a lot still unknown about Turner syndrome as far as how it affects people and how it can truly be helped because of how different the cases are. Every time I try to describe Turner syndrome to somebody or I talk about an element of it, it always comes back to it's a spectrum. There is a spectrum and levels to it. And depending on where you are on that spectrum and what level you are at, that decides how much you'll be affected and in what ways you'll be affected. The only other disorder or condition I've kind of felt good about comparing it to is kind of the autism spectrum, because it's also so different, so varying, and it's a spectrum. You can place those affected by it on a spectrum, on a kind of leveling system, and no system for determining that is going to be perfect. But as far as infertility goes, you can kind of tell what your likelihood is by where you fall on the spectrum. I really have looked at a lot of it recently as where in the conception process it started, so how many cells after that were affected. And the more cells that were affected, the more severe it's going to be, and the more you will be affected. I have an inkling that for me, mine was started later in the conception process, and that not as many cells were affected because of how few symptoms I have and just how lucky I have been when it's come to all of the different medical problems that can come with this and all of the different health issues and just every situation that it can bring up. I have been so lucky, and that has made me think mine started later in the process. And for infertility, that can affect the varying levels of infertility. Yes, my ovaries are pretty much closed for business. They're not responding or listening to anybody. And yes, I have a low egg reserve, and I need egg donation to have a baby to go through pregnancy. But everything else about my reproductive system allows me to be pregnant and give birth. There is no other bad factor that I'm fighting against. Literally just the egg. Just the egg. Just the system that holds the egg and the system that I need to get the egg. Everything else is fine. That is not the case for everybody. There are for sure some Turner's women that aren't even really healthfully able to carry a baby, whether they get egg donation or not. That affects everything. That decides a lot, and that means that your case is going to look very different. So when you're looking at infertility, you need to get your own story. Comparing can be a joy stealer because it will not always be something you can do or something that works for your story. So those are my thoughts on Turner syndrome and infertility and how it affects it. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them or find resources. If I don't understand it, we can learn together. So I would love to hear any questions or thoughts you guys have. If you have learned something that I did not talk about, I would love to hear you share it in the comments as well. And if you liked this video and it helped you in some way, please give it a thumbs up and share it with everybody. Get the conversation about Turner syndrome and infertility out there. And if you are not already subscribed to my channel, click the screen and subscribe, and then you can see when the next video comes out, and I will see you guys in that one. Bye!